Hello. Welcome back to another episode here at Berkeley Creek. This week, we're excited to bring you an episode where we sit down with expert dog trainer, Michelle, to share some helpful tips for bringing home a new dog and preparing them for the various situations they'll encounter throughout their early life. We aren't going to be able to cover every topic today, so if you have any questions or topics you would like us to cover in the future, please make sure to leave comments below. Let's jump in and see what Michelle and Colin are discussing.
How do you prep a dog to get ready to go to the groomer or to go to a boarding and daycare facility?
So for grooming, for puppies specifically, and I can't stress enough, I say this in my sessions to my puppies, is every day you are working on touching the bottoms of the dog's feet. You're like massaging the legs, you're touching those nails.
Yeah.
You're starting to file those nails at such a young age because they're squirmy now, but they're only 15 pounds. Homie's going to be 90. Like, it's going to get a lot harder when it's 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, you really got to focus on cooperative care and, like, stick your fingers in the ears, like, just to mimic when the vet has to go in and clean the dog's ears out. So then they're used to that sensation.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Massage it. Like, I would start, if you're not going to brush the dog's teeth right away because it's a puppy, like, you could take a piece of gauze and just start massaging the gums just to get the dog prepared for that. So remember, everything creates a pattern in the dog's brain. So, like, if you get them used to that as a habit daily, it gets a lot easier.
Yeah.
And they need to learn that, you know, I'm going to help you. I'm going to hold you. I'm going to work, like, just getting really, some dogs are really sensitive. So, like, some dogs, it takes a little bit longer. Some dogs just take to it right away. It all depends on the temperament of the dog, but just making sure that you're getting the dog comfortable, like, in a down position. So working on that obedience, trying to teach the dog a side position so then they can just give you your leg eventually and you can just clip the dog's nails or file or use the Dremel. The Dremel is a huge one too. So I would even say is you bring out those tools to make them less aversive to the dog daily. So even if it's a brush, you turn your phone over. Vinny likes to do this a lot, and just massaging the dog's back like you're brushing it. Then you get the brush, turn the brush over, because if the bristles are too strong on the dog's back and it's uncomfortable, and then rewarding the dog for telling him, hey, you're crushing it right now. Yeah. The Dremel, move your like the grooming materials need to be coming out every day, all day, moving in different positions. Everybody always just brings them out every 4 weeks. And the dog's like, oh,
here we go with this again.
And they perceive it as conflict. And then dogs start guarding their body. Does that make sense? So bringing it out, desensitization of just like putting it on a table, put it next to their bed, you know, and like even a minute of, like, if you can get 2 toenails in 5 minutes, money.
That's a win.
Yeah, it's huge.
With my dog Milo, Milo is always my problem. Listen, we always joke that, like,
all good.
Mia was
taught you so much. I mean, you know what I mean?
Did.
Like, just preparing you.
You know what it shockingly taught me? So with all the stuff that I had learned from, you know, having some dogs growing up and hearing my grandfather kind of, you know, talk about some of the stuff that he said was important. Yeah. Which was an endless amount. It was almost as though I got to learn, how do you correct a situation where you've made almost every mistake? And where you did not do a lot of socialization, you did no exposure, you did no desensitization. Because I mean, he hates his nail trim. So what we do is we'll wait till this is so bad, but it's funny. We will like wait till he's like in the most relaxed asleep state, and then we'll, like, you can tell by his body language, it's like, okay, we're gonna get one. And then we'll do it, and he just like barely wakes up, and it just goes back to sleep, and it doesn't bother him. Whereas if he's fully awake, like, he will go nuts, and his anal glands start to go. It's like, buddy, we don't need this.
Yeah, well, and that's a good point too, is like, make sure, so I wouldn't start with it at the beginning of the day when your dog is ripping and roaring ready to go. Does that make sense? So I'm going to like exercise homie real good. Yeah. And then like, if we're also working on that protocol of like recess math. Yeah. I'm going to do it when it's in a calm state. Yeah. And like make sure that he's fully fulfilled before I even start anything like that. Does that make sense? Oh. And remember, like, they're just little building blocks, and then it builds up to a bigger picture. But if you just take your time, another huge problem I see is how much talking people do to the dogs while they're like helping. So it reinforces, in my personal opinion. So everybody has different thoughts. I think that it could make the dog more anxious by talking to the dog while you're working with it.
Yeah.
So when I'm working with my own dog Hilda, and I'm working on cooperative care, I am really focused on just being very calm. It's like a meditative state, and I'm just working on nail by nail, and then I massage like her. I'm like, she has like, it's called the blueberry facial, I call it. So it's like she's going on a spa day right now.
Yeah.
So I'm giving her a massage, then I work down to the paws, and then I go to the back, and I go back down to the paws again. So I just really take my time, and I take a lot of breaks.
Yeah.
So, and that's another thing too. But another thing I would say too is utilizing the leash as well. So have the leash on. So just in case if you have to help redirect, so you don't have to put your like so much energy to holding the dog down or anything.
Which could lead to like pressure points.
Yeah. And it just, and so, because a lot of people, like I've heard they have to hold, 3 people have to hold the dog. It shouldn't be that hard.
No.
Yeah. So you remember
that's exactly what I won't do.
Yes.
If people ask me,
yeah,
can you trim my dog's nails, and they're probably not going to like it. If you need to go to that length, what I tell people is, listen, I'm not charging you. We're not doing this. And here's why. Because this is such a negative, stressful experience, and I don't want them pulling up here remembering that happening. I want them to think like, oh, my friends are in there, we're going to go have fun. It's just not worth it. But I'm sorry. I know it's inconvenient to have to go somewhere else, but trust me, I don't want to ruin this. Yeah.
But that's where they hit up the trainer, and they can help to get, just desensitizing and working on. There's probably other things going on that is building up to that frustration too.
What's funny, through our breeding program, I actually, so I do a lot of the testing, and I've been over the years kind of offloading a lot of it to Aaron as much as possible. But something that I always do is I take everyone's paws when they're puppies, and I'll start to rub them. And then, but I'll slowly start to increase a little bit of pressure, and I'm talking like fractions of a percent. And once you feel it, you get used to it. And then eventually what you do is, it's like, okay, well, I just pushed decently hard, and the puppy didn't do anything. But you know what? When someone goes to then grab their nails, it's a whole different ballgame. Because by the time a puppy leaves here, I mean, my gosh, I think we do once every 3 or 4 days. With nail trimming. So the best
that's good.
The best we can.
They're growing homes.
when they jump on you, they're like needles.
I know.
Like you think
T-Rex phase, man.
You think your puppy at 8 weeks old has sharp nails? 6 and 4.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, they'll instantly cut skin.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Because think of it as like, if it was in the wild, they would have to be taking care of themselves.
we always forget the wild thing. But the other thing that you had mentioned you wanted to bring up was potentially getting dogs ready for boarding and daycare.
Yep.
Okay, so how do you do that?
So for boarding specifically, a lot of people will just take the dog. The dog doesn't know where it's going.
Yeah.
And they drop it off for 2 weeks, and they're like, good luck, have fun.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Listen, I've heard that. I've heard that.
Yeah.
We require an assessment, which is usually a full day of daycare.
Yeah.
But, so the people like to drop off without doing that.
Right. So
is that normal?
I feel like
it's common.
It can be.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy heck.
Unfortunately, but to educate people is start dropping them off like maybe once every other week for half a day.
Yeah.
And making sure that the dog is comfortable with the people.
Yeah.
Comfortable in the environment. Is it too noisy? Is it, does the dog have smaller play groups?
Yeah.
Does it get enough rest in between the play groups?
Yeah.
You want
to know something really interesting, if you don't mind, I interject. Keep track of where you want to go with this, because I don't want to forget. I've always done a full day assessment. And the reason why is, if you know me at home, I am purely a data-driven person.
He's true. He has a whole.
Yeah, that's embarrassing. I don't want to talk about, my whiteboard is covered in equations right now, and but we're working on some things. But
just joking, dude.
No, you're not. She's not joking. There's equations all over that thing. But what's interesting is, I've always found is that by the time the half day is complete and they're going home, I have found that is the tipping point where things start to go really well.
Okay. Sometimes I think it's, okay, maybe that the dog will do better at an in-home, like someone pet sitting at their house.
Yeah.
So like if they didn't do well, cool. and you've done maybe 3 weeks
Yeah.
of trying. All right,
Mhm.
well, somebody comes to your house and like the dog sees
Yeah.
your dog, but it's giving yourself enough time to figure that out, so you're preparing the dog
Oh,
have
yeah.
a successful time while you're away.
Yep.
And I think that's the biggest part about all of that. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Oh, it absolutely does. And the other thing that, I have such a limited knowledge base on is, what are other facilities doing? And I don't know that answer.
Yeah.
And
me
and,
neither.
and, and all I really ever know is what has worked here.
Yes. Mhm.
And but that half day, you will get dogs who are a little bit shy up to that point, and then all of a sudden, it's like that first half the day,
Mhm.
the dog realizes, wait a minute, so we got outside,
Uh-huh.
we were able to play,
Uh-huh.
nothing bad happened.
Mhm.
I now get a bed, water, and treats,
Mhm.
and we're gonna do this again. It's almost like this just massive switch goes off.
Yeah.
And I have seen, I don't have the numbers, so I don't want to speculate, but it's a pretty decent percentage of dogs who will, like, in the afternoon, it's like, okay, I get it.
Mhm.
And now it's like the floodgates have opened.
Yeah,
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, now what I will say
Mhm.
is, and I've known this from years and years, is that very first dog or
Mhm.
play group that they have in a facility
Mhm.
can make or break in some cases. If
Definitely.
you have a bad experience in that first play group and it's the wrong play group, like a dog's running past you too quickly,
Yeah.
or a dog wants to play too much,
Right.
that can really, it's like trying to drive through mud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
You'll just spin your wheels.
Yeah.
At least a half day every other week.
Yeah, well, for like
Starting at what age approximately?
So I would so make sure the dog for
All
you
the
it's all the
vaccines.
vaccine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
So
good.
like I think
If
it's
you're
like,
not vaccinated, this is not for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
The dog has to have all their
so
vaccines.
it's around 5 months old that they have everything, right?
It's depending on the vaccination schedule of the veterinarian,
Okay.
the dog, body weight, and a number of other things.
Okay.
Negative reactions. More common than not,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I have
yeah.
seen is almost every vaccine is done by 15 weeks.
Okay.
Very rarely have
Okay.
I seen instances in medium and large breed dogs where
Uh-huh.
it goes beyond that.
Yeah. So I would say like when the dog's vaccinated, let's start.
Yeah.
Like,
So right away.
getting the dog ready.
But the exposure and stuff can come before that.
Oh, but it's during all that too.
Yeah.
So so with dog training, everything encompasses everything.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It's all related.
It's a full circle.
Right.
So like they're working on just being with a different person that's just not their human.
Yeah.
Or they're getting comfortable with a groomer, being handled in a different like facility. So that's part of that whole exposure is just like getting them out into different areas, being handed over to different like people. So the dog's like by 7-8 months old, he's like, man, I'm living the best life. Like you just like you take me, I got it. So and I think it just really helps dogs open up. So
it's funny you talk about exposure though, and I never think about these things and why are these conversations so like valuable? They always trigger something. I had a dog who came here who once she got in the building loved it being here.
Yeah.
But do you know what was interesting and why it was a hard sell to the owner?
Okay.
Because when we pulled up, it was like she wasn't always excited to be here in the parking lot. We used to have a gravel driveway. The dog hated walking on gravel.
Oh, really?
She would like not want to walk on it.
Yeah.
And we have a little bit of gravel just outside of our doors because you have to have it in high traffic areas or you'll just have mud.
Right.
And it was the same thing. She wouldn't want to step on it. But as soon as if you picked her up and carried her out, she was completely fine. And it was like, exposure in every sense of the word and how you raise a dog can make or break
the confidence.
Everything. Even as far as walking on gravel.
Dude, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like hey, I want you to sit on grass. I want you to sit on concrete. I'm not sitting on that gravel. Okay, cool. We're gonna work towards that though. You know what I mean? So and that's where that stressors come in. And sometimes people are uncomfortable to work the dog through that. But it's, if you do little bits every day of just working the dog, it's gonna stack up and you're gonna have positive results in some manner.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be perfect so that's a huge mistake a lot of people make is they expect it to like all be ready and work out right then and there. And it's like, dude, you're looking like at 6 to 8 months before everything starts to come together.
It takes so much
You
time.
know what I mean? And so I think a lot of people and really working on just being consistent and patient and not being frustrated.
Basic obedience with Mia when we first got her, it was 365 days straight, including holidays.
Yeah.
15 minutes twice a day, basic obedience.
Yeah.
But it was, I knew I wanted to compete.
Right.
So that was a different ballgame.
Yeah,
But I always tell people, if you even do 15 minutes once a day, you will be shocked at how well behaved and the progress you'll
because
make.
they weren't doing it 15 minutes before the day before. So it's
Right.
like, you know, anything like counts for those dogs.
Yeah.
You know, and it's building regard for the human.
Right.
Is that and the dog then starts checking in with you, and you're like, yo, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, and you start having fun together, and it just kind of like that the dogs blossom. It's really it's a beautiful thing to watch the dogs really open up and become their best selves with the people if you know set them up correctly.
And if you don't give up, you have to keep going.
Yeah. But even if like, so that's the thing too. It's not a pretty picture all the time. You know what I mean? So like you're gonna mess up, no big deal.
Yeah.
You just go back down to the basics. Just take the pressure off yourself that you feel like you're gonna start over.
Yeah.
You know, and I like even with like my dogs are rescues and like I had to start over a couple times, and then it just started to make sense that okay, we can move forward, we can get through this, and it just takes time and practice, and but having the resources, I think, of asking people, and like I think that's something that as like with Say It Once dog training and like our team specifically is that we really thrive on like coaching and helping those people, especially when it gets really hard because because it gets lonely when you're by yourself and you're like, yo, why is this dog doing this? You know? And you're just sitting there like, I don't know what to do. It's like, yo, hit this up. Like, I'm always bothering my clients. I'm like, and as I leave a session, I was like, I'm going to bother you and probably annoy you a little bit, but I'm going to be like cheering you on the whole time. So, but
you want to see that dog succeed.
Oh, 100%. I want to see everybody succeed with their dogs.
But
it's fun.
And you know, to kind of bring everything like full circle.
Yeah.
You know, it's really important to remind people at home, the way that your kids go to school or the way that you grew up, you're not going to learn to hit a baseball as well as some other people. You might want to go play the piano. You might be the best violin player, and you might not be good at reading or you might be great at math. We just talked about that earlier. Like what skill sets do you have? And like, there's going to be things where your dog gets tripped up. That doesn't mean that they're not capable. It just means you need to put a little bit more time in that area.
Or find what the dog does enjoy doing. Do you know what I mean?
And put them in situations to succeed.
Exactly.
Because that kid who doesn't want to play sports, who you force him to be out there, there's nothing you're going to do to change that. So let them go do what they want to do. And make them happy. Like the same way that we put the love into the way we want to be raised and the way we want to be treated and the way we want to treat our kids. Try to find out what your dog really enjoys and stick with that. And you know what? You'll be happy. You'll have less anxiety. And everyone's just going to thrive. And that's really the ultimate goal of preparing a dog for life, just like it's preparing us. And have fun. All right, do you want to close out with anything?
Deuces.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in today. And then we'll keep hopefully bringing you good stuff. And
man.
We'll see you next time. And thank you for tuning in. Thanks for coming along.
Yeah, dude.
All right. We'll catch you later.
See ya.